Okay, we know that Rosh Hashanah is rapidly approaching, so let's not mess around and get right into this Inyan here. This is also Rosh Hashanah. This is the Tiv Kavanos on the Shar Kavanos, and we're in Drush 7, Zion. What's talking about? Shofar. So try to understand as we've gotten some definitions of shofar. The Rav can look at it from this way, that way, upside down, and inside out, and backwards, and is always looking at the same thing, but it could be a lot different. I've heard now. The kasher ima drosha shagdamno. So it really is tied to the drush that we're preceded it. V'hu ki bechinas a shofar uga bechinas or hamaki. So what is the what's the concept of shofar? Now, one place I know he said that it's a concept that represents bina. So over here he says a shofar who bechinas or hamaki. This concept of a or makif, a surrounding light, outside light, very powerful light shining in. Shall Shevis spheres tachtonis the Ima. So these are the lower 7 spheres of the Ima, which is called her Zat. Her Zat is going to go into Zeranpin in different ways. The first are the lower 3, the Nai, will go into Zeranpin. But also the Chagat, that will be a Maki. Well, it's to be too strong to be able to go into Zeranpin. Well, let's see how we can work this out over here on number Lamed Gimel and try to get a little bit of help to understand where the Holy ARI is coming from. He says the Tokeya, the person who's blowing, Maram is all parts of Ima. Now he goes like this. He says the person who's blowing, he didn't say Hatokeya, he doesn't say the shofar. He's talking about the person who blow is a remes to the parts of a shofar nimsa bepiv. The shofar is found in his mouth. Maram is al bechinas a peh de ima, so it's a reference to the peh. So we have the blower is a reference to ima, and the mouth of this blower is a reference to the mouth of ima. The fisha pen nimsim al sheva tachtonis de ima. So since the mouth is found, I guess the mouth is part of the Rosh. So therefore, he wants to say that it's like the bottom of the row. So he says, so since it's found up above the 7 tachtonis of Ima, and then there's going to be all of this wind, that the breath that's going to come out. He calls it havolim. So the vapor that comes out of the mouth, in the mata, it starts spreading out of that place. B'sheva tachton is the goof of the zat, on the zat of the goof of the zat. That means the chesed gevur teferes, and that's a chod yisod malchus. V'gam mamtikim es adinim shenishbech betachtonos. Sheva tachtonos. So he said, v'gam mamtikim es adinim. Also, it sweetens the dinim that are in the lower part of Zeranpin. So therefore, it's considered like an or makif. That the shofar, he says, what is the blower? And the blower has this in his mouth. And it's as the mouth is pouring out this shefa, which is a makif, that's going down to sweeten the dinim in the zat of Zeranpin. They don't go into Zeranpin. It's called, when we have the tzalim, it's called the tzadi and it's called the lamed and the memdesam. This is a part that's outside. They can't go in, it's too strong, but he can't sweeten from the outside. So the beginning or hamakiv shall sheva tachtonis the ima. Shahare kol or elyo. So let's look like this. Every upper light becomes a dimension of consciousness which is greater than the normal. Because shahu yora the mata, as it starts going down, nasa sham bechinas makif, it becomes a makif to the lower one. L'oras hanim soim lamata, those lights which are down below, because to go into it's too great for them. So therefore, it's on the outside of them. So he says, now we have number Lamed Dalet, and we have to go up to the top to do it. We're okay still. He said, but l'chein nik for shofar. So this is the reason why it's called by this name, shofar. Meloshin shvofar shalbeya, which is like, I'm not sure what shvofar is mean. I looked it up. It says a tube of an egg. I don't know if that's right, or let's say an egg. V'shvofer shalkono, or the tube of a reed. Shul halum b'tocho means that there's like he meant an egg. Shvofer shal beitz, I guess it means the egg shell. And then the shofar shel kohen, so that's also a reed, they're hollow on the inside. Now, I'm trying to understand this. He said the shofar is really analogized to a shell or to a tube, and it's empty on the inside, right? Because shofar is empty on the inside. So therefore we can deduce from that it's an ormakiv. I wouldn't deduce that, but that's what he says. Shehu chalu b'tocho, which is that it's empty in the inside. Lahalbish b'socho es or panimi, because it wants to have within it the or panimi. Now I have a view of it now. The or panimi, in a sense, is the smallest of the lights, and as a result of that, it has to go into Zera Anpin. It's able to go into Zera Anpin because it makes itself, let's say, just as small as it needs to be in order to, but it's a great light, but as small as it needs to be. But it's attached to other lights that can't go into Zera Anpin. So what happens when the bottom, let's make it say it's like a tail, so or a rope. So let's say, well, you take the bottom of the rope and you put it into the Zera Anpin, but as it goes further away from that tail part of it, it gets bigger because the light is much greater. This is a light of Ima. This is a dimension of consciousness beyond that what's going into Zera Anpin, so therefore it remains on the outside. That's his explanation. That's the idea the Rav is giving. Let me see if I got Sheva Tachtanis to Ima. So he says the shofar kul malosh shvoferis shall bear the shell of an egg on this carrot b'pesach the Shabbos apparently. A shofar shall konech on this carrot b'pesach the chum. Is a kolumba konech hollow sheyesh b'socho beis kibble. So there's a place they could hold, and this gives another idea of another metaphor. It's like an unfolding, something that unfolds. So that as you look at it, it looks like a large piece of light. But inside of it are smaller lights, and then smaller lights. This gets smaller, that there's actually 3 sections of light, one inside the next. So the smaller one is going to be the most inside one. That's the one that goes in Zera Anpin. That's another metaphor for this idea, I think, is a word. So let me see. He said, I guess we have a love kiyos, shofar hu or makif. It's a surrounding light. So therefore it's like a tube that's empty in the inside. Sheyesh b'socho beis kibble. It has a place to receive light inside of it. As or panimi, because inside of it has the or panimi. It's a very nice view for me, because it explains a lot of different ways as how the or panimi is inside the or makif, which is called the lamed itself, and that is inside of the or makif, which is called the mem itself, which is really far away, corresponding to the concept of the light of Yechidah, like that, way out. So let's see what he says. Of Al-Kain Nikra B'Lashon Shofar. So that's why it's called a shofar. It's called a shofar because of its ability to hold something, but it surrounds the essence. The essence apparently is what comes out of the mouth of the Tokea. Shehu Melashon Shvofer Shel Be'el O Shvofer Shel Kone Sheyesh Bechem Chalul Reik L'Kabel B'Socho, that they have an empty place to be able to receive inside of them. Let's go up to the top. Let's see number Lamed Vav. So number Lamed Vav, it says Oz Nikra Shofar. So here's another idea. The time Admas Pnei Damas, I guess is meant the reddening of the face of the Tokea Biyofi Vashafriros, lush and beauty. She is Bar Command Best Hashem, and we're going to talk about that. So here's now we're down there now in number Lamed Vav, and this is what the Tiv going to help us out to what he's saying. He said, Tam Nosef Lamed Nikra B'Shem Shofar. Here's another reason why it's called by the name of a shofar. He said, Adimus, that his face turns red, B'Shas at the Kios at the time when he's blowing, right? And it makes very, very beautiful, healthy look. Because what is the Tukaya doing? It's pulling down Shefa Elyon. He said that Shefa is going to come down and through his mouth, right? It's a Shefa from Bina. It represents like maybe the concept of that. It's going to come down through his mouth, and as a result of that, it's going to fly over the Zat of Zeir Anpin. So he says, Az Shefa Elyon Ma'arich, Hanikra Trin Tfuchin Kadishim. I'll say that again. He said, so why is his face look so beautiful? So he says, Shemam Shekos, because now he's pulling down Shefa Elyon. There's a really, really deep level of Shefa now coming in. This is the consciousness of Eric Anpin. Hanikra Trin Tefuchim, who's also called the two apples. Now, you know, the cheeks like turn red, something like Kadishim, Trin Tefuchim Kadishim. Now, exactly how it's said like that, I'm not sure, but I hear him saying that. He's going to explain how it is that what? He says he's going to explain like the Eric Anpin or the Shefa that's coming from the L from Eric Anpin is going to be called by the name Trin Tefuchim Kadishim, which means two holy apples. We're going to see later on. And Mishum Shachayofi Nikra Gam came Belosh Shafriros. So since it's called by that name, okay, Nikra Shofar, so that's the basis of the word Shofar. Now all of these are different angles or different ways of being able to look at the Shofar, but we're getting the idea of what this light that's coming out of the Shofar. Certainly we can get that idea about what's coming down. The purpose is what? To bring about the sweetening of the dinim. Let's see what else he has to say. As we're just going from the beginning to the end, it's the best I know how to do, especially with material that I don't know. I don't like to skip around. It's not the pattern that I follow. I really follow the pattern of Rebbe Nachman the Breslov. So I learned this many, many years ago, to go around and around and around. And that's basically like when you hear this, I think that the listener, if someone's still listening at this point, he says that if the listener has to realize that this goes around and around and around, and every time you go further around, you continue to ride around, you get more into the inside. And I'm looking for it. I'm trying to find the openings and the ways to beginning. The only way that I really know how to do it is with hard work, by just going through these things and hearing the ideas. So Valda, he says, look, but know this, he said. So let's talk about the Or Panimi. This Or Panimi from the 7 Tachtonis of Ima. Hein Sheva Havayos the Sag. They are the 7 Havayos the Sag. Now, I'm not familiar with this. So, let's see what he says. Or Hamakiv Einu Kain. But the Or Hamakiv is not like this. Kamoshin Amar. She'avor. Like I'm going to explain this, which I'm interested in this myself. I'd like to really know. Here's the first question. Now let's look at Ima. Ima's 10 spheros. So he means when he says from the body of Ima, which is where the Zat starts, Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, like that, going all the way down to her Malchus, called her Zat. He says this is where we're focusing on. But inside of her is something called an Or Panimi. He says, Heim Sheva Havayos the Sag. So he means there's 7 Havayos in the formation of Sag. So there's 7 Sags. That Yud Vav Dalet Ke Yud Vav Alavav Ke Yud. Gematria 63. 7 of them. That's what I'm reading and that I'm understanding. So let's see what the next one is, number Lamed Ches. Of Or HaMakiv Einu Kain. But when we're talking about the Makiv, it doesn't work the same way. Okay, so when we talk about Panemius, we could have 7 times Sag. Now that's the way I hear it. But when the Or Makiv Einu Kain, Moshe Abor, and I'm going to explain that, and we'll get to it probably tomorrow. Let's see what the typical bonus says in number Lamed Tes. He says the Gevuros and the Cholochos L'Shnei Cholokim. The Gevuros are really divided into 2. Yesh Dinim Shehem Bebechinas Nuk. There are dinim that belong to the Nuk. They belong to her. They're the Nuk of the dinim. Yesh Dinim Shehem Bebechinas Dachar. Really. And there's male dinim. Now, this idea I don't have at all. Now, the word din, let's see, Yeshnam Shach Dinim. There are here 320 dinim, Shenechlalim b'Chachma v'Bina, that are part of Chachma and Bina. Yeshnam Lamed Beis Bechinos Chachma, so we have this on the Lamed Beis, the seeds of Chachma, that's a 32. Bechein Yash Lamed Beis Elokim B'Bina, that's 32 Elokims in Bina. Because Echad Me'elu Halamed Beis, Kaluhu Me'asara, and each one of them has 10 within each one of them. That makes 320. Hare Shlosh Me'el V'Esrim, Communion Shach, which is the minion of Shach Dinim, 320 Dinim, which will come up. V'hine Rumozim B'Shem Adni. Now, Adni is a gematria of what? It's a gematria of 64. We just make sure I got that right. 50, 64. Adni is 65. So 65, 65, ki osios din. Let's just take the letter din. Din, right, is the number 64. Shebeshem Adni. Heim bebechinas din. Now, this isn't something you see in a lot of different places. And so this little idea, maybe we'll read it one more time before I finish. B'chamisha pamim dim, it comes to the gematria 320. Communion nar. It's also the gematria of the word nar. Beidach hachamisha dinim, and these 5 dinim, heim bebechinas nok. They're the dinim of the nok. V'os aleph sheb'shem adnim. Now the aleph, that doesn't fit into that idea. Mamtakas adinim, it sweetens the dinim. You os aleph the adni, because the aleph there, that comes from this name adni, who b'chamesh pamim akia, it comes from 5 different akias. Sheyesh b'chem he alofim, that has within it 5 alofim. V'he alofim elu he mamtikim b'chamesh pamim din the adni, v'os na'asa meshach, makes this number meshach shakach, communion naira, which is he says meshach, I read it wrong, meshach shaka. So we take from shach, you make it shaka by adding these 5 sweeteners. Now, we have to read this again. It took me by surprise here that why is going over here, so we're going to find out. What was the question? First, my question was, it doesn't relate to this at all. My first question was why we have 7 sags here. But the makif doesn't work like that. That's what the panimi. So, but he doesn't go that way until he gives a background. He said, Yeshnam shach dinim shenechlal b'chachma bina. Chachma bina always have 320 dinim with them. Is that what he's saying? Yeshman, and so how do we know that? Because we know that because there are 32 bechinas in chachma, and also there's 32 alukims in bina. Now I read that wrong. There are 32 nesivos. Those are the paths of the spread of chachma that are in the chachma of just chachma in general. He said, but Bina has 32 alukims, which are dinim. So on each one of these 32, call them masara. So when you look at the 32s, then you see that 32 times 10 makes 320. That's the concept of shach. So now that's the concept. The concept of 20. They want to say like this. There's a concept called 320 dinim. It's just a fact. And that 320 dinim could be, and they're both there. I don't know if he means to say that there's 640 dinim, but we know that's 320, not 640. So let's say there's a 320 dinim. You can either look at them, they're in those dinim 320 are in the male and they're in the female. They're in Chachma and they're in Bina. And we have ramazim to that. V'heim ramozim b'shem adni. But there's another way to look at it in the word adni. Now adni is a gematria of 65. So osius din sheb'shem adni. So he said just take the last 3 letters of the name adni. Heim bebechinas din. They are in fact the word din, just switch the letters around. Now he said, V'chamesh pamim din heim shach. So if you take the word din, you multiply it by 5. Now, where do we get the 5 from? The 5 are the 5 gevuros that are originally in Zer Anpin, and the das of Zer Anpin. They leave him now in the position that we're talking about through Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah. They go into the nook. There's 5 dinim there. 5 shachs, 5 gevuros, 5 shachs. So, excuse me, there's 5 dinim. That's it. Got the right words right. 5 dinim is a 5 times 3, 5 times the word dinim, which is 64. It comes to 320. Communion nar. It's also the minion of the word nar. Now, this is brought into the Ofes Chaim, and it's developed a little bit over there. So he said, Ve'elu chamesh dinim. So now we had these 5 dinim. Hey, bebechinas nok. They really belong to the nok. They're the aspect of the nok herself. And then if it's Oz Aleph Shebashem Adni, but wait a minute, where does the Aleph come in the name Adni? Because Adni is really 65. It's a different number. Mamtek is a dinim. That Aleph is actually a sweetener on the dinim. He goes Aleph to Adni, so the Oz Aleph that has to do with Adni, it comes from the concept of Akia. Akia is really going to bring goodness. Sheyesh bechem hey alafim. Now the hey alafim in the akias, so we're taking the alas from those akias, and then we're putting it onto these dinim, and we're making the word adni. The hey alafim elu hey mamtikim, and so they're used in the concept when you leave the word when you see the word din, then you understand when you see the word adni that they both go together. But the adni represents the sweetened din itself. Hey mamtikin chamisha pamim din the adni. V'az na'asa mishach shaka communion naira. So that's like this, that added that hey onto the word nar. So one was a nar, and I don't know really offhand why a nar would be, the Rav would use that in order to try to explain to me the concept of the 5 dinim, and why Nara, they're making it in female, but he says that's the sweetened part. Exactly how that works, I don't know, but I'll keep trying to learn it. This is Baruch Fleischman.